there's two big words zapping around the internet now. That's like pornography and censorship and eroticism. It's all going, they're interactive with one another, because censorship usually is by the authorities, governments around the world, to stop their excuses to protect children. So it usually involves eroticism, i.e. explicit sexual acts between consenting adults. Makes no difference to the censors. They say that people should not be allowed to watch pornography. Claire Short the other day arrived outside 10 Downing Street with a bunch of supporters, and just looking at those supporters said everything. Looking at their clothes, their drab, ugly faces, one knew they were absolutely terrified of sex. Yeah, Freud said in the 19th century that the sexual libido of the working classes should be sublimated into labour, and that's what the establishment, the people that run the world establishment, call it what you want, New World Order, whatever, the bankers, the greedy 1%, it's the same people. They want to control the sexual libido of the working classes. I mean, there's no doubt about this. They're controlled and condition children from birth to wake up when the little bell rings, to go out there into the cold and go into a building and work several hours a day. This is conditioning them, socialising them, controlling them. Censorship. The child's speech is censored slowly by reward and punishment. Inappropriate language brings punishment. Correct language brings rewards. So therefore, the sexual words in the child's language are censored. And when a person reaches adult age, the censor then, using the same excuse to protect children as always, treats the citizen like a child by watching something and then says, I can see it but you cannot see it. No one else can see it but me because I'm a BBFC examiner. BBFC, it poses as an establishment. It gives service to filmmakers. Of course it doesn't give service. I didn't want to have my films rated. I didn't want to get an 18 certificate or an 18R certificate, which I ended up getting and which I didn't want. No, I just wanted to be free to publish my film. But if I did that under the present laws, I'd be arrested for publishing a film, if it contained any sexual imagery, that was, describing the same language that is called swearing and censored from our speech automatically, starting the condition when one's a child, and the adults punish children if they use any sexual words. It's the same censorship of the sexual image. So adults grow up believing there's something wrong with sex. They're ashamed of their bodies. They won't undress and appear naked in front of another person or child because extreme embarrassment ensues. Well, this is unnatural. All these things are unnatural. In the 18th century, there was none of this prudery. Women wore very low cut dresses which exposed their breasts, and they had pricks, the men, and the women had cunts. And the men wore kind of breeches that one could let down in front, and if a man had a small cock, he would buy a false one, put it in there and walk around with it. I mean, it was the opposite of what it is what it became in the next century. So what happened from the 18th to the 19th, we had Queen Victoria on the throne, and we had the beginnings of the Obscene Libels Act. And when Queen Victoria was passing these laws, because there was the reason why it was put before the Queen was simply because there was up in London Strand was lined with child brothels where men from all over the world used to go in and flagellate young girls or break in their hymens. There was also a defloration mania at the time, and all the lots of well-known people from this country and abroad were involved in going to those brothels. Then there became a woman who made up a melodramatic story about a young girl, because all the girls that worked in those places worked in there of their own free will, and they got paid very good wages, right? So that's why they wanted to do it. They were working class girls usually. And Society for the Suppression of Vice was formed by these people who were opposed to sexual practices with young girls. And then they brought what? What's happening?
It's alright, I had to stop it, it was online. Okay.
Alright, get ready for action then.
Action.
Yeah. So anyway, depictions of sex suddenly became illegal under the Obscene Libels Act, which was the beginning of the Obscene Publications Act. And Queen Victoria's reign is always known for its height of sexual repression. I mean, women suffering from hysteria sometimes had to undergo a clitoridectomy to cure their hysteria. Women weren't supposed to enjoy sex. They lay back and think of England. Okay, now we have pornography come along, and now it's the opposite. Women do enjoy sex, they look at porn, they have orgasms, so everything's altered. So therefore, the young girls today, which are always the object of Big Brother's thought police and control programs, socialisation, whatever one likes to call it, is to control the sexualisation of young girls. I mean, young girls don't have to be sexualised. They are sexualised. They're masturbating like boys are masturbating every day, dreaming of having sex. They're repressed. They're at the height of their repression. In a natural environment, they probably would have had sex by now. But they're not. They're repressed, as I said. And at the height of repression, the repressed male is a violent male. And at the height of the repression, in the Victorian days, we had all these wars leading up to the First World War in 1914, 1918, then the Second World War. It was a lot to do with sexual repression. And violence is connected with it. In fact, bomber pilots reported having orgasms when firebombing Dresden. Between the feminist movement, the sex-hostile feminist movement, a modern form of neo-Puritanism, is starting to support the censorship groups now. And it seems rather peculiar when one listens to their language. This is the language of Adolf Hitler, Mary Whitehouse, the extreme right wing, the religiously insane, who believe that sex is evil, even though they believe, ironically, that God made everything, therefore he must have made sexual pleasure. And when women are young, they become sexualized and desirable. On reaching puberty, that's what puberty is. And it's quite natural for men to desire these girls, and the strong men will have sex with them no matter what the laws, and some will be put in prison for this natural act. I say this is wrong. I say all censorship is wrong. all censorship of those images. Of course, youngsters are watching pornography, but what's so evil about pornography? They can watch murder, they can watch pseudo snuff films where women are raped and sliced up into small pieces and tortured, whatever, but they can't watch what's going on in millions of bedrooms around the country and around the world. They can't, not allowed to look into that secret. Why is it so secret? Why is it so much to be? Why is it a thing that everybody does, like eating, satisfying an emotion, so terrible? Why can't they look at images of it and become educated? Because schools do not give sex education. Parents are too embarrassed because they're repressed to educate the children. Therefore, children explore, because children is always curious. They're always curious to find out about these things. And now the internet has given them the ability to find out through watching the whole wide world's diverse practices of sexuality. Who are we? That is educative. Doesn't mean to say that if they watch if a girl watches a lesbian film, she's going to become lesbian, or if a male watches a homosexual film, he's going to become gay, or if a foot fetishist watches a foot fetish film, he's going to like licking women's shoes. No, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't change one's sexual identity, which is a slow process in forming. Maybe it will educate the viewer, boy or girl, into how to do certain sexual things, which they probably worked out for themselves anyway. But the naive are educated, that's for sure, and by the time they've watched pornography, they've seen most things of what adults do. So it's ridiculous, a mother saying to a little girl who says, "Fuck this." You can't say that word. Why? Because she's censoring the way she speaks. She's censoring the way the people that treat everyone like children think they're in charge, loco parentis of the population. Those people like Claire Perry and the ilk of Christians, soldiers marching into battle, right, on us. Because it is a fact now that pornography is acceptable to most people. The vast majority of people watch it, enjoy it. It's the most popular form of adult entertainment. Therefore, the only thing these people want to control is images that are so perfectly natural. Even the ones that are legal to do, like between consenting adults, as they call them. For the purpose of the law, anyone under the age of 18 is a child. Well, of course they're not a child when they're 17. When they're 16, of course they're not children. This is ludicrous. But the whole situation is topsy-turvy. The unnatural controlling, are trying to make the natural people act unnaturally, suppress all their sexual instincts, which, as I said, causes violence, especially in the male. If we're going to ever have freedom from the greedy 1%, we have to see what's happening. The feminists, for example, as I said, their views are exactly the same as the right wing, exactly the same as the religious right, fundamentalist religions of anywhere. They're all the same. Muslim, Christian, all these fundamentalist, man-made religions, patriarchal religions, control a person's sexuality. I mean, in some countries they carry out clitoridectomy on 8-year-old girls. Yeah, this obscene practice. Or the circumcision on young boys, right? What is this mutilation of children's sexual organs? Religion? Of course it's not. All these things should be banned. Children should be allowed to have sex together, to grow up naturally and all this shame and conditioning should be stopped somehow. I don't know exactly how we're going to stop it, because that could become authoritarian as well. But there should be some way of stopping it, and I think the answer is pornography. I think children now are learning about sex, and it'll be, as if Freud was right, civilization as we know it will break down, because once the sexuality of children is released, this enormous explosion of repression will sweep across the world. They will communicate with each other via their computers. They can already see pictures of each other on the internet. People talk about child pornography. Why is a girl showing her body to her boyfriend child pornography? Maybe she's 14 and she's showing her body to her boyfriend of 20. This is perfectly natural. How can a person send a sexting? Sexting is illegal. Not showing their own pictures to their boyfriends. This is illegal, and go to court, get fined, get sent to prison, placed on a sex offenders register for life. This is control. This is a police state. Until we have freedom to see what we want, do what we want in our own homes and without hurting others, especially if we're enjoying it. I mean, pornography is part of our sex life. The images, the iconography around us, the erotic images around us are part of our sex life. The government should not interfere with the people's sex life, because that is starting on the slippery slope down to authoritarianism. Adolf Hitler: I will cleanse the theatres and the billboards of the sweet, sickly smell of modern eroticism. I will clean the cinema, the magazines, the newspapers. That is Adolf Hitler. What is different from what the feminists and the right wing are saying today? What is different from it? I ask you.